Okay, Bobbie.
All right. Well, Whit, I want to welcome you to Texas. It's nice to have you here, and nice to be able to talk with you about Barcelona, because I was telling you as we were getting ready to go on that besides being an enjoyable film, it just made me want to get on a plane and go off to Barcelona. It's such a beautiful city.
It really is beautiful, and we tried to show it at its best. We waited filming from October to April, so we could show Barcelona at its greenest and most sort of luscious.
You actually filmed parts of it during the Olympics, didn't you?
It was before and after the Olympics. We were really lucky. I was in Barcelona writing the script, and I was impatient to get going on the film. And there are a few special holidays and events coming up that I knew I couldn't get during production. So we went out and shot before and after the Olympics. And then it turned out we were very lucky, because after the Olympics, the scaffolding went back up in the city. And so we really got some shots that I think no one else could have gotten.
And so, actually, if we went there now, it wouldn't look quite the same. Certain places wouldn't
Well,
look
the
quite
thing
the
is,
same.
there's generally in any city, I think there's no one time when everything is perfect. Always in one part of the city or another, they're doing construction or cleaning the facade of a building or repairing something. But during the Olympics, they wanted the city to look as good as possible. So they took all that aside. They fixed everything up for the Olympics. And we sort of caught that Barcelona at its best look.
Wonderful. I think that a lot of people will be surprised at the political implications of this film, because it is at a time in Spain when there was a lot of anti-American feeling, and certainly anti-military feeling. Does that prevail today?
No, it's changed a lot. The film really is set in the early 80s, when Spain was coming out of the dictatorship and deciding what its future would be. And the surprising thing to me then was how controversial NATO was. We've had NATO since 1948, and I think for Americans it's completely not controversial. And in Spain they're debating whether to join NATO or not, and there's a lot of anti-NATO as well as anti-American feeling.
Now, you've spent a lot of time in Spain because you're married to a woman from Barcelona, are you not?
Yes.
So you know Spain very well, and I'm sure you have a real feeling for the people. Ever as an American, did you feel unwanted in that country?
Yes, it's a wonderful city. It has a reputation for being a little bit more closed socially than Madrid. Madrid is the extroverted, funny, friendly city as far as people. In Barcelona, people are very hardworking and serious, and a little bit more closed off and cliquish. And I did feel that, and really through making the movie, I feel I have many more sort of friends my age now in the whole process, the struggle of the production. And I always felt very close to my parents-in-law, and so I have a lot of relatives and in-laws I really love in Barcelona. But it is a difficult society to become a part of.
I think another thing that may surprise a lot of people about the story content is that while you don't show any explicit sex in your film, the young women of your film are quite, what shall we say, free in their sexual attitudes.
Yeah.
Is that a nice way to put that?
Yeah, I've seen of nice ways of putting it, and the ways they would put it is that they say they're advanced or liberated or progre or progressive. And it was very much the way it was back then. The feeling was that the sexual revolution came to Spain a little bit later than the United States, but became much more sweeping and profound. All the old traces of this sort of repressive regime before and religion were sort of thrown aside, and they went to another extreme, which I think, as far as the American characters, the American guys are kind of disoriented and upset by it. That's really changed in Spain. It's not that way now, although still they haven't gone back to religion and sort of normal values the way people in the United States have.
So you're saying then that this predominantly Catholic country, they don't really practice their religion that faithfully? Is that what you mean?
I think during the 50s and 60s, it was practiced probably more than any country in the world. In other words, the most Catholic country. And then there's this tremendous reaction against it in the late 60s and 70s. And what I noticed is that while lots of people I know in my generation, the United States have returned to religion or the church in some way. In Spain, that hasn't happened among the younger generation. Maybe it'll happen with the next group of people coming up, but I think these people in the generation portrayed in the film were too much affected by the Franco regime. They're too much in the opposition to sort of lose those beliefs they formed in the late 60s.
Whit, how do you want to be thought of as a filmmaker? Because, you know, sometimes I read things where people just praise you because you're not mainstream and you're not doing, you know, chases and explosions and all that. And then I think in Barcelona, you do have a little more of, what shall I say, a little bit more of a mainstream flow going for you. And then I read the people are taking you to task for that. I mean, you're sort of damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Well, generally we've had a lot of luck. I mean, generally people have given us a pretty fair break with both films. I felt I wanted to get into more movie stuff with this film, a bigger film that was more open, less sort of claustrophobic than Metropolitan. And I did put a lot of melodramatic incidents and violence and action in the movie, and I became unhappy with that, and I scaled it back. So there are things that happen in the film. There are sort of dramatic events and things that could be called action. But I think it's within the context of this kind of romantic comedy where it doesn't violate the tone too much, because that's the problem, that action and comedy and melodrama are an uneasy mix.
But are you kind of being forced into it in order to get people to back your films and distribute your films? Is that what
No,
it's
it's completely my own choice. In fact, the company financing it, the Hollywood company Castle Rock, this wonderful company that Rob Reiner and 4 partners made, they were a little bit leery of the elements that were melodramatic and violent. And when I decided to cut back on that, they were very supportive and really love that decision.
So it's not a thing where you feel like you have to go another direction in order to get the kind of backing you need.
No, I really have been able to, I've been really lucky and just been able to concentrate on what I want to do, but sometimes you don't really know what you want to do and you make mistakes yourself. And the fortunate thing is we were able to correct those mistakes.
What will your next project be?
What we're thinking of doing is a film about the last day. It's called The Last Days of Disco. And it's about a group of young people in New York when they're working their first jobs, a group of young women. This time I wanted to have women in the foreground. And they get involved in the world of Studio 54 in its last weeks before it's closed down by the tax authorities. And the people at Castle Rock are really excited about that. They think that it's a kind of subject that will interest people.
Are you thinking of any particular actors or actresses?
I really am. I really like thinking about actors when I write the script, even if they never see the script later or never do it. And I really would like to have Winona Ryder in this next film, and with the young actress who was in Metropolitan, Carolyn Farina. She was also with Winona Ryder in Age of Innocence. She played Daniel Day-Lewis's crabby sister. And she's a wonderful actress, and I'd like to see her in this film.
Yes. The Sorvino girl who is in this picture, and of course people know her father, Paul Sorvino.
Yes.
How did you come to know her?
Well, I sort of decided that I'd cast the film in Europe and have European actresses doing these parts, so they'd seem different from us, they'd seem Spanish and foreign. And it was about giving up on the American casting. She came in on one of the last casting days in New York, and she wanted to audition with an accent. I said, oh no, not with an accent. But she did it, and it was wonderful. And so she was cast in the film sort of against my better judgment, and it really worked.
Indeed, yes,
Yeah.
I liked her performance very much. Well, Whit, thank you very much for coming by today, and continued good luck to you. And again, I'll tell you that I think Barcelona is a most enjoyable film. I liked it a lot.
Thanks very much.
Okay. I've heads rolled.
Well, whenever someone has, that was in a normal cinema.
It was in D.C.
At Lincoln Center, or
No,
I mean, that
in-
works at JFK
in
Center.
Washington, D.C. it was.
Was it Kennedy Center or
No.
something?
No, it was at some theater out a little ways
Uh-huh.
as the diplomatic part.
Because normally, whenever they have the brilliant idea of showing a film, someplace you normally don't show films, they say, this place is really beautiful, let's show it
Oh, no,
outdoors.
this was a theater. That's
Yeah,
what was so weird.
but whenever they do those things of showing a film in a non-theater, it's such a disaster. I mean, it never works. I know a festival that prides itself on showing its films outside in the plaza. And I had to see filmmakers show their films there, and they suffered so much. It just doesn't work. Movie theater's the best place to show a film.
Well, even
Or very nice screening rooms.
when they showed Terminator 2
Yeah.
out at Sony Studios, Cameron was up and down that aisle 45 times before it started, checking, and they said he'd been there all day checking things out anyway. And, you know, he is so. Roy, are you ready?
Yeah,
okay.
are you gonna?
When we talk about anything.
Okay. What were we talking about? We're talking about terrible places to show films. The worst is this thing called the Locarno Festival, where they have a sports gymnasium that seats 12,000 people. And this is a festival in the southern part of Switzerland where they speak Italian. And the official language of the festival is French, so the subtitles are in French, but the entire audience is German-speaking Swiss. So they had me introduce the film, and I tried to say that I want to make a film at the same budget level as Spike Lee and Jim Jarmusch, but that would look totally different. You know, how could I make a film that would have a totally different look? You know, but basically the production was like their film, but it was really a different kind of film. And this German man had to speak French, which he didn't speak very well, to this German audience to explain what I'd said. And it came out as saying this, I'm the new Jim Jarmusch and Spike Lee. So I had the entire, there were 5,000 people of the 12,000 seats filled. I had 5,000 people who hated me at the start of the movie. Then the movie starts, and there are these French subtitles in English language, and they can't understand a word. And I was sitting next to the exit, and like so many people were walking out during the projection that I could scarcely see the movie. It's really upsetting. At the end of the movie, I go out just totally devastated to the distributors, and they say to me, that was a good screening. Normally many more people walk out. And it was really horrible. And then I saw the film a couple of more times at these little theaters they had in town, and it was so great because somehow the people who did speak French, this French-speaking people at the festival, all found the film. They all loved the film, and they went to see it at these little movie theaters, and the reaction was really great. But the German audience who'd seen it at this big screening, they hated me and hated the film, and felt terrible.
Okay, Roy, you think?